Hello, yet another stormy day here in Montenegro, and I still have nothing to review. So today I will do a thing that few people asked me before. So today I will review my music collection. I will show what I have in my Ultima and probably tell a few words about these albums, maybe some particular tracks. So I suspect it will be a long story, but who knows. And of course, if you don't if you used to some gadgets review, today it won't be the case. So here is Ultima because it has 512 gigabytes of memory, and I loaded here about 50% of my collection. I usually use regular 44 kilohertz and 16 bits on my dubs, because when I use players on the go, I rarely hear the benefits of high resolution music, so no sense in holding high-res files. But of course, usually in Ultima I have some set of high-resolution files for test purposes. But today, to fit more tracks in memory, I redefined that. And wake up. Probably let's move in the folders order. So I use macOS and Linux software called Beats. It's command line utility written in Python that is really good in organizing media library, but of course you will need to have basic terminal skills for that. And that's why I vast majority of my collection is organized in the artist/album order, but there are few exceptions. So first folder is for compilations, and it's the different compilations of various artists. First one, it's called От Паланги до Гурзуфа, from Palanga to Gurzuf. It's La Musique Soviétique, summer 1969. I don't remember why, but Soviet government decided to create a compilation of easy listening music. Maybe it was some exhibition in Soviet Union that was visited by many people from abroad or something like that, so they've created this compilation. It's a really good Soviet artists performing different kinds of easy listening. So first one is soundtrack from French movie Boom. You probably know it, it's classic. And a lot of different vocal tracks. So nice kind of easy listening, a bit nostalgic. Next is that album that I used from time to time. It's also compilation. It's Ravel Bolero, Debussy La Mer, and Mussorgsky pictures at the exhibition. Really good compilation, really good classical music. It's exactly this album. Deutsche Grammophon, you know, I like Deutsche Grammophon. When it's come to classical music, Deutsche Grammophon knows what they are doing. And Bolero is perfect example for testing how natural your source or headphones is, because it's it's really great classical music piece. When all these instruments are starting their part, simple tune became more and more complicated. Then it's Notre Dame de Paris, classical musical. Of course, if you want to listen it, only French version, only original cast, and no substitutes. Then it's the world's greatest audiophile vocal recordings. It's Chesky and Chesky artists and good, well-recorded vocal. Then Best of Bond, 50 years and 50 tracks, so without recent additions like Adele and actually I forgot oh, Billie Eilish, yeah, I forgot her name. So then another Chesky disc, You Surrounded. It's as you can guess by the name, it's the compilation of the different music recorded to the binaural microphones. Perfect for listening in the headphones, but actually not really good for testing. American Gods, good soundtrack for average TV series. So American Gods are not bad, but actually far from being good. Rock Reimagined, really good compilation by Chesky. I really like it. It's Chesky artists performing classical rock pieces. And second and third part of that great vocal compilation. Next one is soundtracks. Actually, I don't know why American Gods didn't get here, but few soundtracks that I like. So The Big Blue, it's another masterpiece of cinematograph. It's French classic, so you know about this movie, and I think the big part of this movie's success is this underwater-like ambient soundtrack. Jesus Christ Superstar, it's classics. Actually, it's not the soundtrack, but Beats decided that it's soundtrack, but it's actually original version, of course. Lady Hawk, it's from the time when I liked retrowave. Django Unchained, it's Tarantino soundtrack, just classics. Interstellar soundtrack, Hans Zimmer at its best, kind of half ambient, half classical music, really good, especially for testing imaginary stage, for example. Whiplash, another great movie about music. If you're a fan of music, you know about it. And Chernobyl, another masterpiece, another great TV series telling the tragedy of my country. So I like the TV series, and yeah, my cat approves. And I like the original soundtrack, it's nice ambient. And yet another Tarantino's soundtrack, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but actually, you know, Django was better. And Unsorted, it's usually it's the track that is not organized by the beats, it's just as easy, and usually it's the different test tracks that I used. So Chesky Magical Binaural Records from last year's Munich high-end show. It's actually binaural recorded tracks, so Chesky is great in doing that. Chinese drums, I don't know actually what is album is it, but it's really well recorded. And more Chesky, so it's Head-Fi's Classic, the ultimate headphone demonstration disc. It's what it called. Few really well recorded tracks, but besides that, a lot of different tones with surround sound, with moving sound sources, so really good for testing your headphones. HD Tracks 2014 sampler, it's actually it's a good sample of classical music, and not only classical, but it's the free album available from hdtracks.com, so at least it was some time ago available. High-end Society Stereo Play, it's another disc from Munich 2019, another good compilation of different tracks, some of them are even in MQA. I grabbed it at some stand. Karma Test CD, so it's one of few tracks that I test discs that I use. Also I use Focal test discs and what else? Triangle electroacoustics, if I remember right. And kind of cheating test disc, it's Sound Pro Lab Absolute Sampler. It's not some official compilation, it was created by some Russian magazine, if I remember right, and it's the tracks that are specially tuned to sound more engaging, more efficient, more emotional. So they played actively here with saturation and other plugins. It's the demo disc that used by many audio gear sellers to sell you better gear. I'm not sure is it available somewhere, but it can be downloaded from popular torrent tracker. I don't use torrents regularly, but I buy all my music, but for this disc there can be done an exception because it's not sold anywhere. So if you need something to sell audio gear to customers, it's your choice. And let's go back. So Alan Parsons, last year's album, classical Alan Parsons, nicely sounding. Ali Ferguson, I bought 2 albums from Bandcamp, nice, probably progressive music. A Massacre, if you like heavy metal and if you don't like something super brutal, I really recommend this album to you because it's a masterpiece, and it's really shame that this group only released 1 single album and no more. I'm waiting for some more works from them, but it's, atmospheric, engaging music with a lot of different instruments, with interesting story, done in fancy medieval style. Let's go back. Anathema, it's classical group, everyone knows about them. Interesting transformation from the really brutal and slow doom to the progressive and really light sound. Then I have Annihilator, classical thrash metal or technical thrash metal, so something in between of thrash and progressive, and a good version of Vivaldi's Four Seasons by good performers. I really like this version. It's Glee Incogniti. Apocalyptica, actually I got only one the record, Wagner Reloaded, live in Leipzig. It's a good example of live record that's sounding even more interesting than the studio works. Arena, classics of progressive rock. Arian Anthony Lucassen, Lost in the New Real, so Arion, Lucassen solo works, Gentle Storm, so almost all his albums and works I have in the library. Arne Domnerus, it's Jazz at the Pawn Shop, 30th anniversary, so absolutely classical record. If you need one jazz record to listen, it's this one. And also it's really audiophilic recording because it's recorded in the club, it's a live record, and you have all that sounds like people working, some quiet talk, and it gives you nice sense of presence. And another album, Arne Domnerus and Gustav Sjöqvist, I suppose it's Sjöqvist. Antiphon Blues, another great record. If I remember right, it was recorded in some church, so great big spacious stage and really engaging atmosphere. Artzoid, if I remember right, it's French group, and it's absolutely crazy avant-garde music with that is hard to say what genre it is. Asia, it's another classics of progressive rock, so Arion, it's like heavy metal Olympic Games. Arjen Lucassen, that I mentioned before, gathers best musicians, best vocalists, and recording really long, engaging, progressive albums with interesting topics. Behemoth, it's Behemoth, it's doom death or with black influence, or black with death influence, so hard to categorize it, but it's one of the best groups in this genre, and it's really surprising that Catholic Poland born such a group. Bijelo Dugme, it's classics of ex-Yugoslavian rock music. I like them, I listen them often, and actually that's the music that I started to learn the Serbian, Croatian, Montenegrin language. Billy Idol, yet another retro, nostalgic performer, and just a compilation like the best. Blues Pills, I liked them before. It's like, you know, kind of something in between Led Zeppelin and stoner groups, but with female vocal. Really good vocal, but I became a bit boring sometime. Bob Marley and the Wailers, so everyone need at least one reggae album in the media library, and I got the best compilation. Same for Bon Jovi. So Bruce Dickinson, I'm a great fan of Iron Maiden, and of course Bruce Dickinson solo works too. Camel, The Snow Goose, it's the best music ever created, period. Well, or at least one of the best. Caravan Palace, it's my type of dance music, it's electro swing, so interesting mix of classical swing tunes and modern electronica. Carcass, it's surgical steel and hard work, probably two best recorded heavy metal albums, because some time ago, if I remember right, Earache Records decided to release full dynamic range remasters for these albums, and you know, you can just download or buy two versions and compare them, and it will be a sad experience, because you will understand how much we are losing because of that loudness war. So Karl Orff, London Symphony Orchestra, Andre Previn, Carmina Burana, good version. It's yet another classical album that every audiophile should have. I really like this album cover, and I really like this version. So let's go back. Casey Abrams, just good like jazz and related records. Charles Mingus, so it's jazz classics without any explanations. Chepazo Band, unusual group from St. Petersburg. They play classical jazz music using the harmonica, but actually they disbanded after releasing one EP. So Cliver, probably you know about it. So once again, Fireworks. So you know, this evening something is constantly happening in order to avoid me record this video. So cat meowing, wind blowing, now fireworks. So Clutch, another kind of stoner, kind of retro heavy music. So Creedence Clearwater Revival, just the best compilation. Daft Punk, everyone knows and everyone uses them, and everyone waits for new album. Dan Svanio, Moon Tower, so classical heavy metal producer, also really good in his own bands. Danny Elfman, Serenada Schizophrena, great composer, created a lot of popular movie scores and his symphonic poem. David Bowie, I got two albums, so the Platinum Collection, because everyone need to have it, and Black Star, because it's one of the most heart-touching albums created in the rock history. So some more albums from David Chesky. So Binaural Sound Show, Jazz and New Harmonic, Rap Symphony. Actually, you know, it's when someone trying to say that rap is a bad music, not audiophilic enough, I always use this album as a proof they are wrong. David Coverdale and Jimmy Page, nice, good compilation of classical hard and heavy. David Gilmour solo work, Rattle That Lock, often use it and like it. David Maxim Micic, Serbian guitarist with really interesting experimental music. Also got his works from Bandcamp. Deadlock, kind of modern metal, not big fan. Death, Human, it's actually first death metal albums, so got them in my library. Not actually great fan, but I pay respect. Deep Purple, just few early albums, so up to 1974, and of course Maiden Heaven, really good recent remaster. Perfect, probably one of the best live albums. Diablo Swing Orchestra, another great album for those who like metal music, but with big influence of avant-garde. They have everything. Opera, flamenco, dubstep, you name it, you will have it. Everything. Die Antwoord, so my guilty pleasure. Die Krups, yet another band that require every audiophile should know, because you know they were the fathers of all modern industrial and not only industrial music, because some of their riffs actually commonly used by many modern bands. But I got their tribute to Metallica. In 90s I was a big fan of Metallica, and I bought every single album, and I bought this one, and I like this unusual approach to the Metallica's music. Dire Straits and Mark Knopfler, the best compilation. I can't use it for testing because I just like Dire Straits too much and I start listening. Of course, Dream Theater, all albums, including official bootlegs. I don't know why they covering the whole albums, like Number of the Beast, Dark Side of the Moon and others, but actually it's sounding unusual. Not always Labrie is the best vocal for that albums, but anyway. Next album, Echoes of Ellington Jazz Orchestra, that's the album that I really recommend you. It's unusual work, it's classical music, it's the tribute to Gustav Holst and Duke Ellington at the same time. So classical symphonic poem reimagined like the music created by Duke Ellington Jazz Orchestra. Really good work and done with great style and recorded pretty well. Let's go back. Ekaterina Velika, yet another Catherine the Great, yet another ex-Yugoslavian rock band, probably the best one and the most tragic one, because almost all band members used this motto, live fast, die young, and revisited version, it's just a remastered version created by their session drummer. Really interesting experience. Like if you want to touch that before the war period of Yugoslavia, it's an interesting experiment. Eluveitai, another metal with folk influence, so partially death, partially folk. Emerson, Lake Palmer, I'm sure that no one need an explanation why they're here. Enigma, it's just Enigma, the best compilation. So many Soviet children need to say thank you to Enigma for being even born. Eiffel d'Oise, or how it should be pronounced, if I remember, they are from France, and it's a good avant-garde blackened metal, really good experimental music, sounding really engaging. Eric Clapton, everyone needed to. Europe, the best compilation. Exascents, it's kind of post-rock, post-metal, if I remember right, they are from Portugal, got them from Bandcamp too. Face No More, because classics should be respected. Fall of Ephrata, also more kind of avant-garde, and as well as Frederic Torendal special Defect. G-Swing, even more dense version of swing. Gary Moore, not a big fan actually, but he had really few good tunes before he decided to play that long notes. Ghost, probably the best thing that has happened with not brutal metal recently. Glenn Miller, so in the digital mood, if you need one album of the big band jazz, probably this one is my recommendation. Godspeed You Black Emperor, another Fathers, but this time of post-rock and many others. Göteborg Symphoniker with Niemi Järvi, or if I pronounced the name wrong once again, I'm sorry. Great classical music compilation. It's Tchaikovsky 1812 and March Slav and Polovsian dances, Capriccio Espagnol by Rimsky-Korsakov, Russian Easter Festival Overture, so kind of almost all most popular Russian classical music in one compilation. And what I like here is that this 1812 Overture performed with canons. It's a good test for the macrodynamics. Guns N' Roses, the best compilation. Haken, nice, probably the best fresh blood band from Great Britain, mixing progressive metal with retro wave. Hans Zimmer, Live in Prague, good album. If it would be better recorded, it would be a great test, but it's still pretty nice for demonstration. Halloween, so what I've got, yeah, Better Than Raw and Metal Jukebox, like this two particular albums. Hiromi Uehara, you know, when jazz meets classical rock, it's Hiromi Uehara, and it is a pianist that is pleasant to see and pleasant to hear. Hof Ensemble, two albums recorded really superbly. It's classical Scandinavian jazz, and it's the Quiet Winter Night is a good name for their album. It's just relaxing music to listen during the quiet winter nights, really atmospheric. And Elgar Holst, actually it's the Planet's original version, I got both of them. Hugh Laurie, the best white blues performer, Iron Maiden, big fan, so I'm not the person who thinks that only classical albums are good. I really like their recent albums too. James Brown, Live at the Apollo, really recommend you this album. It's one of the best live recorded albums ever, and James Brown shows the masterclass how to control and entertain the audience. Jamie Haddad, Mark Sherman, and Lenny White. Explorations in Time and Space and Time, binaural, so yet another binaural album. Jethro Tull, really recommend you to get Steven Wilson's remasters. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, great reunite, live version of their classical tracks. Ginger, it's Ukrainian latest addition to the heavy metal music. If you a fan of modern metal, you probably know this band with unusual female vocalist with great growl. So, Joe Cocker, everyone needs the best compilation. John Carpenter, great director, great musician. Yet another retro wave. John Coltrane, I have two albums, Live Supreme and The Blue Train. And John Zorn, so yet another avant-garde. John Lord, his concerto for group and orchestra. Nice, probably the earliest experiments in uniting hard rock and orchestral music. Judas Priest, the best compilation. Juno Reactor, so two albums that I use, of course 3 albums that I use as a base test, but of course the best one is the Golden Sun of the Great East. What next? Kent Poon, audiophile, jazz prologue, third part, good fortepiano jazz. King Crimson, you understand why it's here. Fathers of Progressive. King Diamond, just one album, probably I need to get more of them. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, fresh blood in the modern avant-garde and psychedelic. Kiel Oman, or once again not sure how to pronounce it, good organ jazz. Led Zeppelin, all albums. Layla Marshall, one of the best examples of female vocal in my collection. Lindsey Stirling, actually not a big fan, but sometimes like it. Lingua Mortis Orchestra, really good album. So Lingua Mortis Orchestra, it's the accompanying orchestra for the German power metal classics Rage. And then they've decided to release the symphonic work, and it was this album dedicated to the witch hunt in the Middle Ages. Really good work if you're a fan of heavy metal, or if you're a fan of classical music and you're okay with experiments, it's just a good option. So Louis Armstrong, it's Louis and the Good Book, and recently recommended for me Louis Armstrong meets Oscar Peterson. Thanks for the recommendation. Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington, yet another good duet. Actually not duet, but they call it summit, and probably it's a good term. Magnum, I really like them. It's one of the best arena-oriented rock bands, and shame for me that I learned about them only so recent. Manowar, so we all were young, we all listened to Manowar. Maybe not everyone, but many of us. Marco Hietala, so I'm a fan of Nightwish, besides Tarja, to be honest, so I like the post-Tarjan Nightwish era, because in my opinion, with Tarja on board, they were like more accompanying band for Tarja, and now they are better independent group with a lot of good artists. But of course, it's just my subjective opinion, so don't throw stones to me. So Marco Hietala's solo work, of course, I can't skip it. Marillion, the best neo-progressive group. I really like their works, but of course, mainly from the Fish era. But actually Brave and Fear was also good. Marvin Gaye, so one of the best male vocals in my collection. So soul made mainstream with perfect performance, with perfect records. Massive Attack, best album to test jazz. Mastodon, so classics of modern progressive. Megadeth. Mekong Delta, actually another progressive thrash metal. They recently released the new album done in classical style. Merciful Fate, another classics of heavy metal. Metallica, so Miles Davis. Moonspell, big fan of Moonspell. Motanka, good Ukrainian group mixing folk music and heavy metal. Musica Nuda, you know about them if you see my few reviews. It's double acoustic double bass and female vocal, and recorded pretty nicely. So Nathaniel Rateliff and Night Sweets, it's some kind of country or dance version of country, and good test for drums. Native Construct, my recent finding, really recommend this group to you. Unfortunately, they released only one album. It's progressive metal, but it's kind of progressive that mix everything. Grow, clean vocal, pieces of classics, really complex music, so good. Nazareth, because everyone needs them. Ne Obliviscaris, yet another avant-garde music. Newsted, so ex-Metallica's bassist, it's Jason Newsted. Great album. Unfortunately, he released only one album. I hope he will release yet another someday. Nguyen Le, Celebrating the Dark Side of the Moon. I'm fan of Pink Floyd either, and this is unusual jazz version of Dark Side of the Moon, but to be honest, when I bought this album I expected more. Then another group that I used really often, it's Nehich, great avant-garde jazz from Poland. You know, Poland is great in avant-garde jazz. They have few really good heavy metal groups, but the best contribution of Poland to modern culture, it's actually Polish sci-fi writers. So lot of good works that I read recently. Nightwish, so you can see I didn't lie you, I like only post-Taria's era. Nile, good example of group that just spoils everything with record quality, because early works were recorded better. It's kind of brutal death metal, but really technical and progressive. And recent records are really poorly recorded. Nino Katamadze and Inside, probably the most famous Georgian singer, good vocal jazz. Nirvana, well, everyone needs them. Northern Kings, it's good, best Polish, Finnish, of course, heavy metal singers united together to record 2 albums, and actually Reborn is better than Rethroned. Odyssey, yet another work by Dan Svanyo. It's covers of classical metal in more like jazz with symphony orchestra style. Onuka, folk electronic project from Ukraine, really good. Opeth, classics of progressive metal. Pain of Salvation 2, so I'm sure that there is no sense in describing why they're here. Pantera, angry metal, is also fun to listen sometimes. Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays, another good avant-garde jazz album, As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita Falls, good for testing treble because of the percussion. Peter Gabriel, so pretty expectable. Pink Floyd, all albums. PJ Harvey, Porcupine Tree, so sometimes they are pretty boring, but some albums are great. Postmodern Jukebox, I really like this project. It's Scott Bradley, so they just release like 5 to 10 albums per year, and they are covering classical rock pop music in the jazz and swing style. Powerwolf, so yet another fun metal. Queen, 3 the best compilation. Rage, I already mentioned them, all albums, because I like them. Rammstein, the best compilation. Actually, they are good, but not so good to listen all tracks, in my opinion. Relict, good, good stoner metal group from the Belarus with unusual poetry. Reckless Love, kind of, pop metal group with engaging tunes. Red Hot Chili Peppers, and also Relict, but spelled in a bit different way. Rival Sons, yet another kind of rock music. Robert Plant solo works, like them especially starting from the early 2000s and up today. Roger Waters, well, maybe, I like Gilmour more, but of course Waters I need to keep in my collection. Royal Republic, if you're feeling down, depressed and lonely, Royal Republic will cheer you up. Kind of hooligan heavy metal music with funny tunes and fun lyrics. Rush, because you know why they're here. Santa Esmeralda, another group from early 80s. Satyricon, probably it's not completely black metal, but some variations of modern black. Scorpion Child, it's yet another stoner Scorpions, just the best, actually not the best, Eye to Eye. Not a big fan of Scorpions, but Eye to Eye was their attempt to create something unusual and they succeed. Sepultura, Shocking Blue, so pretty expected groups. Slayer also, Sigurdur Rongvaldsson Dark Forest, nice experimental Scandinavian jazz. Snarky Puppy, one of the best modern jazz collective. Solifald, it's yet another avant-garde with black influence. Spiritual Beggars, if I remember right, actually didn't hear them for quite a long time, it's yet another stoner. Steven Wilson's solo works, great progressive, especially the Raven that refused to sing, beautiful and charming work. Sting, the best of compilation. Sunburst, yet another progressive thing. Alan Parsons project, because everyone's needed in the collection, all albums. The Beatles, it's just one album, it's Love, remastered versions of the best hits. The Darts, it's a folk rock band from St. Petersburg. The Doors, because everyone needs them. Gentle Storm, it's another work by Arjen Lucassen mentioned before, and it's a great album. It exists in two versions, Storm and Gentle version and Storm version, so kind of more folk and more metal influenced. Nice story, two versions of good tunes, also my recommendations. Glitch Mob, nice kind of electronic music. The Heavies, I really like this group. They just created the potpourri of the most famous and influential metal and rock songs. The Mars Volta, classics of modern progressive rock and metal. The Orion Orchestra, it's also John Lord and related stuff. The Prodigy, the Quintet, Jazz at the Massey Hall, good work of great jazz masters. Rolling Stones best of album. Therion, just few albums, actually got two of them. Threshold, yet another group that started as a thrash metal, the name hints that, but actually then they've added nice tunes and progressive, so they are not as heavy as many other groups. So really recommend for this group for those who like heavy metal but not something brutal. Tool, classics of progressive and transatlantic. Thomas Holopainen, great solo work about the Scrooge. Van Halen, the best compilation. Vanden Plus, another progressive. Vladimir Cosma, classics of French music scores, the tunes that everyone's like. Volbeat, it's kind of metal but done in engaging way. Vardruna, Scandinavian folk. I use them often. Wiener Philharmonical, Symphony No. 5, I like this version. Let me show you the album cover. So, as I've said, when it comes to the classical music, Deutsche Grammophon is the #1 label to consider, at least to my taste. Witherscape, another progressive-like album. Wolf Hoffmann, classical metal guitarist, reperforming classics. Yellow, classics of electronic music, yes. Zodiac, it's Soviet electronic music, kind of influenced by the space. Ivan Tkalenko, it's Ukrainian folk instrument bandura. Georgy Garanyan, it's Soviet jazz classics, big orchestra. Slot, it's Russian modern metal, and this one is the Ondekoze, so Japanese taiko drummers. So here it was my music collection. This record really took more time than I've expected, and I'm pretty sure that only few people will listen it to the end. But anyway, thank you for staying with me. I suppose I will find something interesting to show you and to tell in future. Have a nice day.